Good morning, ladies and gents. So, what we've got today, aside from a lot of glare coming in from the back window, fix that, there we go. So, today I was going to do some content stuff. Specifically, I was trying to get a starter town put together, and it's really freaking hard. A lot of models that I own are either really good for isometric views, or they just don't have enough space on the inside, and that's kind of I wouldn't call it a common issue, but it definitely is an issue. So what I've got going on right now is I managed to finally toss together a little bit of a house. I've been using this, okay, I haven't been using that one. Let's see, prefabs, there we go. So I've been using this as kind of a basis for housing right now. The problem being that by the time you kind of stack the two pieces together and get them going and looking decent, oh look, I've got a house, kinda, sorta. Not only does it take so long to get this put together that, you know, I'm sitting here futzing with numbers forever, but on top of that, we run into this issue where that's actually pretty freaking tiny. Like, if I look at this from the player's point of view, not only is it not put together well, because I put it together in 10 seconds, but that's pretty small. Like, it looks like I could, like, walk into it, and that's about it. And that's something that you'll notice is wrong with the house in the other scene, the test scene that we've been running. Really? One sec. I apparently have something to fix here. Materials, roof material, thank you. I don't need all those. There we go. So the one thing to note when I go racing up to this house, aside from... What the hell? Okay, so aside from the terrain being wrong, so incredibly wrong, it's not even funny. Okay, we'll fix it later. I don't know what went wrong there, but something did. When you walk up to this house... Wow, this scene went to heck. You have a key, which we are going to use. Great, it's unlocked. Notice the moment I'm inside, there's really only enough space for me to turn around, and that's about it. And it doesn't look terribly large either. Okay, there were 3 materials on this. That better? Really? A fight? Not what I need right now, game. Okay. House kit. And... I don't know. Okay, it looks like I need house kit attached. The house kit material attached to these. Whatever, don't care. The big thing here is the fact that the housing is so tiny, so friggin' tiny, that it becomes very quickly obvious that something is wrong with it. Also, it is really obvious that something is wrong right now. Target height of 2, I believe. Also, this should not be... There we go. Let's just put a larger brush on this to speed this process up. I've done this before. I don't know why it didn't keep, is my only curiosity. Oh well, that's fine. I can fix this in my own spare time. The big thing here is just that I'd like to have this kind of cleaned up so it doesn't look like complete garbage the next time I go and test things in this scene. Otherwise, it's going to bother the heck out of me. There we go. Let's get this all looking prettier. Trust me, my, there we go. My criteria for prettier is not much, if I may be so bold. And I've been finding that it's easier to use this mixture of actual terrain and tiled terrain objects. Otherwise, I sit here and make 1,000,001 different little terrain objects, and it takes me forever to edit things and mess with things. So it really has been somewhat invaluable to realize that it's just so much easier to clean up existing stuff than it has been to go through and like make things from scratch and do all the terrain on my own. We're getting there in terms of usability. It's not the end of the world, but okay, that's not the tile I'm looking for. Okay, I'm looking at tile 8. Some of these tile 8s are unfortunately necessary. For example, that one's not, and that one's not, and that one's not. Luckily, these are tiling tiles, so that whole being visible in certain cases is not a huge issue. Interesting. Okay, cool. Anyway, I'm going to stop dicking around with this. As fun as it is, and I do need to work on content, that is what I said I would do, so that is what some of this is about. But also, some of this is also just about fixing things. There we go. I think I got the worst of it taken care of. It looks like it's mostly back to where I had it. Anyway, back to the original scene that I was working on. Trying to get this starter town in place. So, in terms of buildings, we've got a basic kind of floor print that's nice, but it's not exactly done yet. We've got some other things to finish before we dive in on this. Specifically, I wanted to find, you'll notice it's grass on the inside, and that looks particularly amateur. So we should be able to, with not a ton of trouble, find ourselves at least some other textures to use inside. Now, okay, dirt is not bad for floors, but I'd like to think that these people are a little more, I don't know, I guess the term I'm looking for is civilized, such that they have stones on their floors. Rock flooring is not the worst thing in the world. I could just go for rock, literally, but I don't want to. That would look unnatural and kind of weird, so let's avoid that. Also, the nice thing about the non-tiled solution is that the non-tiled solution can take an interesting mixture of things. Ooh, we could go for a literal wood flooring, although I think we've got too much wood in this place already. And the woods don't match in color, and there's something to be said for keeping your outputs matching each other. By outputs, I don't know why I said it that way, but by outputs I meant the texture colors that end up on the floor. My brain is just in weird land right now. There's some really nice textures in here too, I gotta say. I don't intend on using something like lava for a flooring, but you never know. Ornaments don't care about textures. Okay, now we're getting closer. I'm definitely a fan of more square-ish shapes in the flooring. The only thing that I'm kind of a little... Ooh, here we go. Oh, well there. We'll just use... Okay, it's marked floor 19. Lovely. Floor 20... I kind of like 19 the most, honestly. Yeah, most of these scream wall cobblestones, not flooring. So, obviously the one marked floor is probably going to be a little better than the ones that aren't. Texture folder, you... into the... I'll dump it in the terrain if I can. Because it is the terrain system that we are using it in. Just a shame that the the plugin system that I'm using likes to leave behind things. Alright, add texture. It's named floor. We will let it be named floor, and we will use a size of 2. Now the question is how much... Hello? The question will become how much of this will be... Okay. Kind of what I was afraid of. You'll note that it actually doesn't look too bad on that side. Let's see if I can clean it up on that side. What I don't want is the edging to show outside of the place. I don't want it to be this, like, it fades out across the edge of the building. That'd just be silly. Target strength, brush size. So some of this works, some of this doesn't want to play nicely. It does make me kind of curious. Yeah, look at how that's bleeding out. I really don't like that bleed. I'd almost be happier having a little bit of grass be able to slip into the house a little. I'm just not a huge fan of the way that does that. I wonder if there's a way to turn some of that off. That was not the value I was looking to change. Yes, it casts shadows. It does that. Thickness? In terrain? Weird. Collect detail patches, detail density, tree distance, billboard start, fade length. All things I care very, very little for. Really? So I guess my... My choices are, I could either go with a really high resolution texture map for this thing. That doesn't make me too terribly happy about the idea of that. Okay, well, this is starter. This is not test, but this is a very early setup of what a house should be. So a lot of this is going to be experimentation for starters, and then we'll work our way into something a little more detailed later. Like, you'll also notice the fact that the door here is not exactly in the best spot. It's kind of stuck into the wall a bit, but if I also pull it out too far, we start to have issues with it colliding with the wall here on the outside in kind of poorly designed ways. Part of this means that I might just need to go back into my 3D modeling program and fix it. That actually doesn't quite look so bad. I may not actually need... There. So the weird things you'll note, we've got a little bit sticking out here on the sides. So that doesn't look all that great, but at the same time, it's not terrible either. We could come in and lower this a little further to see if that helps, because if I can lower this, it might not look so out of place. Might being the key part of that. The problem also is that on the inside, this door and this door don't match anymore, which is not terribly great. So let's bring that all back up, just so it at least matches. Part of me is definitely tempted to just grab the whole thing and try sinking it into the ground somewhat. See if that helps. Because if it's all closer to ground level, at least that way, I feel less bad about the way in which the building is built into the ground. I do love having this little, like, base, though. Can't help that it, but note that it's completely asymmetrical right now. There we go. Fix that. God, that grass coming in is gonna bother me until I can figure out how to fix that up, though. One possibility is that I could shift all the walls outwards and make this a little more, what's the word I'm hunting for? I can make it a little cleaner. let's do that. Let's try something here. I've got where do I have it is the question. Desktop, game, assets. So I've already made modifications to some of these. What I think I should do is we're going to start up Blender. That thing I don't do a ton on stream. Mostly because I'm really bad at it, but also sometimes it's a necessary thing. Dive in, get your hands dirty with the assets a little bit. I try and avoid working with assets mostly because in the amount of time it tends to take me to do assets, a small army could have invaded, or the world could have ended, or all kinds of other things can happen, and I just would be completely unaware, and I would be so slow at dealing with some of this. Really? Must we do the tiny thing? Also, does this really not center on its own center point? That seems incredibly poorly made. Dimensions. The dimensions are fine. It's more the uncenteredness of it that bothers me. I honestly would really prefer if it were at least somewhat centered looking. Because if I'm going to be working on this, that looks good enough. Maybe raise it back to 0 so it doesn't penetrate the ground a ton. And if you guys have shortcuts or know better ways to work on this, please let me know. I'm always dying to know more about how Blender's workflow should go as opposed to how I mess with it. Because I know I do some bizarre things. Here we go. Just apply everything to it. And then the other thing I want to do, this is where it gets a little dicey. I'm going to start ripping parts off of this. Specifically, I'm going to try and only take the faces I know I don't need. I'm probably going to get more than that just off of sheer oops factor, because that's just how I work when it comes to 3D modeling in me. But at least we will be able to knock out the biggest concerns. Okay, that now it looks like I think I've got the worst of it. Maybe not. Trying to be thorough. The more I can get in one shot, the better, the happier I'll be. But I gotta make sure I get as much as I can. Okay. I think I got it. You'll note my head tilts when I do 3D work. I feel kind of silly about it, but I just, whoops. Oh, I got too much. What is going on here? Why did some of these get deleted? That makes no sense. For example, why did this go away? Okay, let's not take these with us. Nope, that still takes that away. Okay, piece at a time. Ah, okay, so it looks like okay, so the front and sides are just a box. There we go, that's much better. Much, much better. Now I can nuke the rest of this with less fear of crazy consequences. Obviously, I keep missing things though. Okay, is that it? See, I've got some stuff floating around, but nothing too major. How this line continues to exist, that's the part that I have no idea. Get all you out of here. Okay, looks good. Let's recenter it because it looks like we've completely messed with where it should exist. For now, I'm going to center it on the wall itself. We may clean that up or mess with that later, but for now, we're going to use a snap to vertex to bring these edges all the way out. What I essentially want is a piece of wall that spans a length of 2. That's really all I desire in this case. I'm just going to look at the original model for a moment, just so I have an idea of what I'm messing with. Probably want the prefab. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So the other thing to note here is that I'm going to bring each of these out ever so slightly. We're going to extrude them outwards just so that they have some slight amounts of text of depth to them, and also we want to make sure that they have normals facing in each direction. Otherwise, when we get to actually having our art sitting in the game, it's not going to look quite right otherwise. And one thing that's going to keep bugging me until I fix it is how far forwards this is. I'm going to center it a little bit. It looked really nice the way it was previously. But because I'm messing with everything, I should do cleanup and make sure that everything here also continues to look pretty good from a visual standpoint. Since, you know, video games and graphics kind of go hand in hand. There we go. That looks good. Let's get rid of some inside faces here. You'll note that we have faces that live inside our texture. I'm just gonna go ahead and rip these out. It'll save us on some rendering time. And it'll keep weird artifacts from popping up while we're working on the game. Delete those faces. We're not removing the vertices, keep that in mind. The vertices are still nice and safe inside their own system, but just got to make sure we take care of inside faces. Using overdraw is fine, abusing it, not that great. Okay, looks good. And I like the slight asymmetricalness of the whole thing. So, export it out to FBX. Just okay, I can just skip to the right one. We're going to call this house wall 2, and we're going to scale it up by a factor of 5, because that's what I've been doing with all the rest of the things in here. Z forward, Y up is also the Unity standard. House wall 2. Guys, I think you missed the whole Z forward, Y up part. And don't import materials. Just don't. That's how we get this stupid materials folder running around everywhere, thinking it's the king of everything. No rig, no animations. Okay, let's try and re-export this and fix that, because that seems incredibly incorrect. into a Z forwards and Y up system. Yes. Apply transform. I missed that, apparently. There we go. Much better. Also monstrous in nature. Not sure I'm a huge fan of that. Is this one also as huge? Why, yes, it looks like it is. Okay. Okay, so maybe I don't want that scale transform. Let's undo that. Re-export it. Scale of 1. Don't mind me just breaking everything. I'm sorry, what? Hey, Polycrumbs. Things go well. It's a good Saturday to just get some game mechanics and some content put in. I just seem to be having some interesting issues with my terrain, which I just realized has a seam on the texture, and B, with this the scaling on this not being quite right. How do you guys deal with it? You scaled down by 0.5. Okay. So why does a scale of 5 make it huge? And why does a scale of 1... I'm missing a day? Sunday? Today's Sunday? Ah, crap. Where did yesterday go? Oopsies. No biggie. I'll figure it out. Am I doing something bizarre? No, I've got the... Try this again. We're applying our rotation and scaling and other good stuff to the model, so there's no outlying scale left behind. And then we're going to use this as the wall 2 unit. And I'm only going to double its size, just see. So that actually looks pretty darn close to what I want. In fact, it looks... It's so freaking close to what I actually want it to be. Interesting. Okay. Did at least the material hold up? Yes, thank goodness. Okay. I've definitely had a lot of these where the material hasn't quite held up, so by the time I import it, I then have to go in and mess with the UVs. Yeah, so Polygrums, I definitely froze the transforms. That's what this apply location, rotation, and scale does. It essentially takes the transforms and bakes it into the vertices, so that you end up with pure vertex information instead of vertex and transform information. What's killing me is just this size issue. Like, this looks correct. If we even go so far as to import the other wall, the size is incredibly different. Okay, what? Okay, you have some scaling stuff going on here that the other one definitely does not. Okay. I can't seem to win this. So what I'm going to do is we're going to leave the scale at 1. Whatever, don't care. Export it to FBX. Oh no, it becomes non-existent? Question mark? Did I mess something up there? Export, FBX. We have the 1.0 scale with the transform. Yeah, Unity does some weird stuff that I am not happy with. Re-import. It's acting like this is just an empty transform, which is bizarre, because that's exactly what it isn't. Curiosity says that if I save this as a blend file, what will happen then? Because I know blend files, it then proceeds to do the... Okay, so here's this. This looks fine. This does not. And it says it's large enough to fit in this space. Although you'll note that there's nothing attached to it. Okay. I'm trying to keep things in FBX format. Apparently that's not going to be kosher with this at all. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm just going to have a mismatch of pieces and not Keratin. The biggest issue being that now this is left at a funny angle. That's unfortunate and not how I want things to work. Oh, it was selected objects. Got it. Okay, I figured it out. Okay, so let's do some weird scaling inside here. 5 is almost too much. You'll note it not only touches the floor, but tends to go a little too high. I guess this whole thing's been shrunk into the ground a little, so I bet that's fine. I bet it actually does match everything else. You can go away, and you could really stop importing your materials. I'd really appreciate it. Mostly because it keeps making those stupid folders. Okay, good enough. Just go OBJ, less data to confuse Unity. Maybe. That honestly might be a way around it. I don't know. Okay, we've got what we want. Make a prefab of it and be done. Okay, so you'll notice our house wall length 2 actually is 2 pieces. So if I take this and move it in instead, already we've got an interesting size change. Maybe this will make the entire house match at least? Or, ooh, if I do this right, can I put this wall here? Let's get rid of these 2 walls. Do a copy paste and bring this over here and flip it around. And can we bring these walls inwards a little? Not bad. Not great, not bad. In terms of whether I do shader programming, I definitely do a decent amount of it. You'll notice I have trees that wave back and forth in the opening area, and that's something I'm very proud of. I spent a decent amount of time on that. And it took a little bit of effort to get in, but I was very happy with the results that yielded. I'm just trying to get this all centered down to these like 2 length walls to see if I can draw this into something a little more easy to take care of. Because right now we've got it, I think it was set at something like 12 different objects in order to get this whole place put together and looking decent. And that's really not how I'd like this to be if I can help it. Am I putting these inside out? I would laugh if that was the case. I might be. I really might be. Because with the walls this way, I can actually get this a lot closer to the wall, and it looks like a decent door, as opposed to when I was doing it the other way around. It didn't actually look all that great because as you'll see on this side, the door kind of permeates this bottom board a little too much, and what you end up with is either the door is got this like distance between it and the wall, which looks really funny, or what I end up with is a door that kind of permeates the wall somewhat and then doesn't look that great in comparison. No, don't move it. Don't do it. Let's just grab all these and equalize them ever so slightly. Not a ton, just enough to kind of even out the look of the whole thing. Alright, let's see here. If I drag this back just a little, not too much, but just a little. That might help. Say might. Not actually certain, but it might. I'm just trying to make this easier on myself. I want to be able to have a town that I can just like slam together and be done with. I don't really want to spend a ton of time like I currently am on getting this to look nice and be decent, and no, I just want to have doors I can slap on walls and pieces that look nice and do their job. So, kind of back to the original issue here. Kind of curious how they expect me to use this kit. Let's actually look at the kit itself. Specifically, it is the there it is. Fantasy house kit. Okay, so they expect every house to have a set of stairs going to it, pretty much. Or they expect you to, it looks like, thicken the door so that it goes all the way out from its spacing to match with the actual object. Let's see if that works, although I think that's going to be an ugly solution. I'm not a huge fan of that idea. Ta-da! Ugly solution is go. And even then, it's actually not a great ugly solution. There we go. Could I help you with something? I might be able to, although I'm not terribly good at providing tech support while in stream. So, I'll do what I can, Polychromes, but no promises. Okay, solution number 2 is to simply take these and shorten them in. The problem is you'll note that this whole thing already is kind of, I won't call it messed up, but it's not looking great in the first place. See, maybe this will help. So we bring those in a little, and then we're going to grab the front and bring that in a little as well, so that it essentially makes the corner beams, the big thick ones, and all the rest much thinner and not as great looking, but that's fine. Okay, let's turn off the other door for a moment. Fix one of these at a time. First off, thin that out. Second off, bring that right up against it. I don't want it poking through a ton. That's interesting though, because of the way the door is constructed, the fact that it peeks through it all. Okay. That looks decent. Not great, but it's decent. So in terms of your shader poly count, I'd say, or polychromes, I'd say the best thing you can do is either pick one of the default ones as your starting point. I don't actually know what you're trying to accomplish with this shader, at least not off the top of my head. It looks like you're kind of shifting UVs about over time. What your best move to do is probably to take one of the defaults and then shift your logic into the defaults. Because as is, I mean, yeah, they look great. Your shader looks fine, but then getting the shader of the other one to match, that's going to be pretty difficult. Let's see here. So, okay, door 1 is in place, mostly. Thin this one out, do the same thing. See, and you'll notice we're back to this stupid ground piece, which is bothering the heck out of me still. Let's see, if you look at that from the side, so if you're walking up to that door, yeah, that still looks pretty terrible. Okay, I'm gonna thin this out a bit further. Go another... Oh man, this side can't afford to go another 0.1 in. What if I shift this center a little more? That can afford to come back out ever so slightly. And I'm going to shove this in a little bit further. There we go. I'm going to keep just tuning this until it's easy enough that I can be done with it. Because this is one of those things where once it's done once, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's just a matter of getting it tied up that first time. I didn't note much of a difference here. Did I not export the whole thing? I thought I did. Export FBX. Wallhouse 2, not selected objects. We're applying a transform. Great. Weird stuff is showing up in my console. Not the end of the world. I'm used to weird things in my consoles, but... yeah, still not looking as good as I'd like it. So I'm just going to keep going with this. I'm going to keep tuning it thinner and thinner until something gives. But this doesn't look like this so much. It looks like these should be a little further out almost. Let's try this. Shift all the transform information once again. Whoops, wrong kind of export. I just need like a quick save for exporting to FBX. Interesting. Okay. It's like for some reason one of them is accepting my changes and the other isn't, even though they're both using... No? Okay, I saw them both change. Clearly the changes are happening. I guess we'll just go a little further. Oh, come on. Export FBX, go. I love that the doors are now so thick that they actually are both piercing through the wall to touch each other. Kind of hilarious. Actually, that's an idea. That is actually a better idea. I've been messing with this all along. But you know what? That actually might not be the best way to do this. It might be worth it for me to crack open this door, of which is tiny. Holy heck. Tiny little door. So tiny if I zoom in too close, it actually disappears. And let's just shift the door. Let's see here, towards... door. What'd you do? Oh, it got tiny, didn't it? Door. Oh, and it's on its side because reasons. Thanks. I also love the fact that whoever made these models definitely did not mind sinking them either like into the ground slightly or leaving them all over the place. You'll note that the origin for these is in the ground just a little, not a ton, but enough. Enough that it's incredibly annoying to work with. There we go. I have a bad feeling if I fix the rotation and scale on this as well, that it's going to become literally tiny. Let's test that fear with a little exporting. No, okay, it's fine. It's just a matter of positional awareness. We just have to fix that. Okay. So we still have a little bit of distance here between it and the wall. It's not as bad. I do think I shifted the door the wrong way. So I'm just going to grab it and throw it the other way. Maybe entirely, just to test things. Oh, come on. There we go, Blender. Thank you. Export FBX door. Yeah, okay, so that worked. I just went too far with it. Good solution, just a little too extreme. Alright, we're almost to that point where we're done bouncing between these two. Should stop driving me nuts very soon. This kind of proves the strength and the abilities of anybody who claims to be a artist. It is really friggin' hard to get things to line up just the way you want sometimes. Especially when you're trying to make modular sets of art that work with each other in certain ways. It can sometimes be almost frustratingly difficult. to get things to line up the way you want them to. Luckily, because these poke through the wall, which is, even though it's a defect, it helps me line these up. So I can't help but laugh a little bit at the solution that ended up happening, even though that actually doesn't look bad, does it? Let's see. I think I could use a little more space on the side. I'll shift it like that, maybe. And then we'll just tie in all the rest of the walls so it doesn't look like the most disjointed house you've ever seen, and we should be good. So we're getting a little bit of that bleed outside of the house again. Not a huge fan, but we can clean that up, hopefully. I say that questioningly, if only because I don't know if this house is completely square anymore. I think it is. I think it's just smaller than it was originally. So I think I just have to take out this 0.1 scaling I've been doing and then shift it back to where it should be. And let's just lift it ever so slightly. Make it look a little more official and house-like. Maybe fix the the scaling a little more, because we're close but not quite there. I've actually made the house maybe a little too small. Let's just try a top-down view. See if that... Yep, thank you, isometric view. That was incredibly unhelpful. So it doesn't look like the house is square anymore. And I have a bad feeling that if I keep lining these up this way, that they're not going to be square. I could be wrong, and I would appreciate being wrong in this case. But it looks like I'm right. Let's bring... Wrong side. Also, why did the whole house shrink when I did that? It didn't. It literally was my perception of things. Okay. Cool, that looks correct. I'm gonna bring myself back to a perspective view. Make sure I actually did this correctly. See if we can repair the flooring and call it a day. At least not an actual day, but a construction day. Done. I'm not actually gonna be done streaming after this. The words, I keep saying things, but I don't say the things I mean to say. That looks fine. That actually looks exactly how I want that. Okay. Not bad. We're pretty darn close. We do have, I bet, a little, yeah, we got a little leakage back here on the terrain. That's fine. We can just hop into here, get our painting set out, and okay, slight issue. But if I take the whole house, and actually these walls need to be made a part of the house, but if I take the whole house and just shift it, maybe that will hide it well enough. Right? You can kind of see it here and there. A little bit around the outside of the house, but otherwise it actually doesn't look bad. So there are some restrictions. The biggest restriction being that we've got to get it to kind of fit on the terrain map nicely. Now, some obvious facts. This thing has no roof. It has no ceiling even. So obviously, that's a little bit of a priority at the moment. But even then, it shouldn't be too bad to get this all worked up. Slight sizing issues aside, it doesn't look bad. Just got some interesting stuff going on here. Cool. So that doesn't look terrible. Obviously, it needs some work. No, not what I had in mind. 1.9. Then 1, or maybe 2, maybe 1.5 and 1.9. That's not a bad looking house. Obviously, I've done better in my lifetime, but as in terms of something that works inside and out, the only issue I'm seeing is the fact that it's not double-sided, so you can actually see the sky through the roof. We could go so far as to put the ceiling in with the roof, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a separate ceiling piece and have that ceiling piece handle all the worst case instead of making the roof handle everything, especially in cases where the roof might be disjointed or at different levels or have other things going on with it. Neat. They have these like little roof windows that you can attach to things. We actually might want that a little smaller. But aside from that, hey, look, roof things. That's kind of neat. I have a feeling that this comes with the fact that had I done this instead, it might look a little better. Or maybe it's just made for a different roof, because this slope does not seem to be terribly happy about working out correctly. Oh well, I'll figure that out some other time. For now, we've got ourselves a house. Not bad. Not bad at all. So, new project. No, same project as ever. Same dungeon crawler that I've been working on for the past month and a half. Big difference here being that I'm trying to get a starter town set up, and the starter town is... it's being difficult. A lot of my existing stuff, like I was pointing out earlier, the existing stuff is just too small. Granted, this house is a little larger than one of these single cubes, but the single cubes are first off one directional, so the moment you walk inside, you can see out of it. And then the other half was the fact that the moment you start... Ooh, hello. You could be... Interesting. The size on this is weird, to put it lightly. There we go. The sizing of the houses was also weird, so if I took, say, one of the buildings from one of the other sets I've purchased in the past, and you just plop the building down, yeah, the building looks fantastic, don't get me wrong. But if you look at the amount of space inside of this thing in comparison to the house we just built, the problem is that it's so thin and tiny that you have kind of the space you walk into, and then you kind of have one on each side, and that's pretty much all you can do to walk around. Game seems too ambitious? Really? Hope not, because I'm well on my way through it. just to kind of show off, I'm going to save this and show off what I've already got. For those who have not seen this before or are curious what I'm working on, I've got myself a little demo scene put together here. Obviously, it's not complete, but it's got a lot of good testing stuff put in place. Right now, the ability to walk around, you guys can't hear the sounds because I've turned them off. Let's turn them back on so you guys can hear me walking. Pretty simple setup. Fights you can get into where you pick what you're going to do to, you know, mess up some animals that decide to get in your way. Eventually we'll have larger monsters. I actually already have larger monsters. I just don't have an easy way to handle the visuals for them. I'd rather not just have everything sitting in my fight scene. It'd be a little too easy. Am I still updating my YouTube? Definitely, yeah. I am definitely keeping my YouTube up to date. I think I'm all up to date for the most part. I should double check. But I have a Dungeon Crawl dev stream playlist with all 40-something videos there. So if you want to catch up, see how I got here, pretty much every step along the way, at least code-wise, has been sitting in that YouTube channel. Thank you, Green Rolls. Like the beard. What? I enjoy it. It's been an interesting change of pace for the facial hair stuff. It's new. We'll see. I'm gonna... Really? Another fight? I'm gonna see what November brings in terms of facial hair goodness. And then we'll go from there. And I see the facial hair approval committee is here. Miss Flondrixa and her choice of, yeah, let's keep the facial hair. All right. Nice looking house. I hope so, because it definitely beats the previous one. Like I said, the previous one had some issues. Just demonstrate my point here. Door, what are you doing up there? Let's fix that. Door. Come here. What are you doing so high off the ground? Better. Better. There we go. And also I can't help but notice that it's stuck out really far. There we go. That looks much better. Will that work now? I think... Whoops, walk past it. Yeah, that looks like a good door. So door's locked. I've got a guy who has a key. I don't have a key image yet. It's on the list. When I do that, I can walk in, but you'll note there's no extra space. If I attempt to walk anywhere, I feel like I'm going to walk right back out of it. So that was kind of my issue with what I had going on. Rexterra, definitely, I think you're right in terms of Unity games lacking a lot. Now, granted, you've also got people doing some really cool stuff with Unity, like if you look at Blizzard and Hearthstone, that is an entirely Unity project, and yet they've got some really cool stuff going on. And there are people who are proving that Unity is a great tool to use. At the same time, I do understand what you mean about feeling like there's a lot more... There's a lot more games being put out without the content or without the mechanics to make the game interesting. And that's something I'm desperately trying to make sure ends up in this game. Yeah, the demo feels a little light right now, but that's because I'm also missing a lot of other things. For example, let's see, where is it? Oh. I have a different scripted fight set up right there. Eventually... we should be able to have better scripted fights. I've just got... so I use this as testing, so everything that's in here is all test material. But if I go through and instead of my usual stuff, I can actually, let's say, dump an NPC in place. And I've got a prefab to handle some of this NPC stuff. In terms of testing, it's not the easiest. I can definitely understand that. But now we can do things like we can talk or trade or, you know, buy and sell stuff. We can fight the fairy and it goes into standard battle mode. Otherwise, we can sit here and talk, and right now the NPC has a very basic memory system in place. They can remember very simple variables, such as whether I say I'm having fun or not. That will affect later things that this character says. Also, at some point, I'd like to have quests and information that you learn as a player be able to trigger more things that can show up in-game. So if I talk to this person, you'll note that they say, hey, what are you still doing here? Eventually, we could add in more options as well for talking, in terms of, okay, you've learned this piece of information. Now you can ask NPCs about that information. Just more things on the long list of stuff to do. I've definitely got a lot of time to work on this, but the hour a day, every day, has been a great regimen to keep me busy. So yeah, it's definitely been a lot of work, but a lot of fun. And you'll note, she remembers the last thing I said. Not huge, but it's a good step in the right direction in terms of having content that I think is going to be fun and interesting for players. That's really what I'm going for here. I'm not trying to cookie cutter out a dungeon crawl. We're trying to find the elements that make sense and that are fun in the context of the game. And then we're actually going to step into having the rest of it get fleshed out as we go. Do I have the actual game fleshed out like in Excel, or am I doing this part first? Some of it lives in various files. I've got the entire stat system and a lot of the mechanical parts of the game detailed in a Google Doc, which you guys have probably seen me flip through a couple times at this point. I've also got certain story elements lined up, but in terms of like a giant Excel document of things, I haven't needed one of those quite yet. We're getting there. I definitely will need it soon, especially once I start detailing items and all the things in the game. That's when it's going to have to come through. You'll note that a lot of my folders are very close to empty. I've only got 4 items in the game right now, mostly because I've been working on just implementing new mechanics every morning and not expanding on the breadth of those mechanics, just getting a little more depth each time. For those who haven't heard me use those terms before, essentially depth is the number of mechanics that interact with each other, versus breadth is the number of ways that you can use a certain mechanic. So if we think of something like an inventory system, the fact that you can use items, discard items, and maybe merge items together would be depth in that system, versus breadth is the pure number of items you can have and what they do. So games like Borderlands, where they say, yes, we have procedural guns and we have millions of guns, that is an insane amount of breadth, versus the moment you have a character whose skills interact with those guns, that adds depth. So a character like Claptrap from the pre-sequel adds a lot of depth to his own gunplay, because a lot of his abilities are, if you're using this kind of gun, you get bonuses. If you're using this kind of, this brand of gun, you get these bonuses. So when we're talking breadth and depth, just glossary term, that's how those terms are getting used when we talk about game design. If you think of a game like Fantasy Life is almost purely breadth, but there's so much breadth, it actually keeps you coming back and playing more and more and more, because it's simply interesting. There's just a lot to it. So yeah, let's see. Trying to think of other things I wanted to work on today. I wanted to make today, I know it's a little less interesting when I do this, but I wanted to make today kind of a content day so I could get more information into the game, so that when I go around and test things, I'm not fighting with my lack of content. Let's see here. So armor, I can't help but notice, isn't a thing yet. That's actually, I'm going to scribble that down, because I need a list of things that I can work on. So armor would definitely be something I could chug away at. I do need to do more work on my village, my starting area. As much fun as it is to add new mechanics, I definitely need to continue to remember that to some degree content is really king, and that I really need to find a version of this without borders. You can't really see the borders when you back up a certain amount, but when you're playing the game, you can actually see that seam very clearly. Which makes me unhappy. It means we have to mess with more assets. And I'm usually not a fan of modifying assets the moment something hits the game. So this grass doesn't have that problem. So I'm actually just going to switch to that for now. Terrain, where'd you go? There you are. You, edit texture. We're going to actually change the texture we're working with. There we go. That looks better. I can't see any more seams on the ground. And eventually we'll have to do something like get some water running through here. Maybe even get some dirt and rock to layer the bottom of this, because I want it to be a stream. I'd like it to have some better looking parts to it than just, hey look, it's grass everywhere. Let's see if we can find a texture for that. There should be something we can do to make it look natural and rocky. A wooden bottom stream. Not quite. I do like the water texture, but I'm already making use of this somewhere, so I know I have a copy of it sitting in my content folders. Where the heck did that go? Hate it when I lose textures. Lava, grass. No, it's probably in the floor section, honestly. Oh, that looks somewhat natural. Somewhat. It actually has grass between it, so I'm not a huge... Suddenly stream is boat? What? No idea what you're talking about. There we go. This is the one I was hunting for. Texture folder, come here. And you'll note I cleaned up my my hierarchy last time I was off stream. It was getting a little too messy for my liking, and so I came through and just cleaned a lot of it up. Just to ensure that it didn't get so bad that I just lose track of where things are. Let's see here. That is not a decent size for a brush. Also, did I not set that correctly? Oh, I didn't add the texture. Okay, here's the new floor. Here's its size. That size is completely wrong because 2x15 would not do the trick. We'll have to do things to modify this after the fact. So, for example, you'll note that it looks very easy to see the tiling on the texture. We'll have to go through at some point, clean that up. Essentially, we'll want to ensure that as we get this texture to match and fit and look nice, that it has a little variation in it. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of messy and difficult to handle. And that is the last thing we want. As content creators, we want to make sure that it's always easy for us to add new and interesting things to our game. Kind of the same way that if any of you were busy watching the Bob Ross stream in Creative a while back, the way he could take a scene and tack more information into it and make it look interesting without crazy changes to the painting itself. He'd add little details, and those little details would be something that would, as a viewer, spark your interest as you're watching him make it. We're just adding a pretty little stream to our terrain. Sorry. I know I've definitely been watching a little too much of the Bob Ross stream myself, although it ended recently from what I heard, so that's unfortunate. Okay, that does not look bad at all. That actually looks decent. I feel like I could attach water to this and it wouldn't be the end of the world. I don't know if I want to go so far as to use the standard water or if I want to find a different water solution. But in terms of just having something in place, that doesn't look bad. We could intersperse a different texture just to make sure that everything looks nice. I just don't know what I would intersperse it with. Throw some bones on the bottom. That'd be creepy. That'd actually be really creepy. Crater. Interesting. No, that does not belong at the bottom of a stream. We could intersperse it with dirt. I actually think that's probably a really good idea. So I'm going to get the dirt in here. Dirt. Let's see if we can subtly add dirt into this. I don't know if it's going to be easily possible, but it's worth a try just to break up the look of our current The other thing we could do is we could come through here and see if we could remove some of the tiling by just increasing the size of it. They like to default their stuff to 15 by 15. That actually doesn't look too bad. That actually looks maybe a little too big. I can't actually walk up to it yet, but let's intersperse some dirt and see how we can get this to look. Let's see, that looks decent. Let's just get a large brush for this. Interesting. Let's see. So the problem is if I click and drag, it just drags the brush, and that ends up leaving like just a giant streak. That's not really what I had in mind. Now this I like a bit better. The problem is it's just fading between the two, and it's still not that great looking. Let's see. If we cut the texture size in half, and we increase the rate at which it adds, if we keep doing this, maybe it'll look better? Question mark? Don't know. This is one of those things I'm learning. I have not done a ton of level or environmental design. I don't tend to get to this point in my games, honestly, where I need the content to look decent enough that I care about it. And I think that looks terrible, so I'm just going to undo all of it. Because seriously, ew. I can hear the dog licking behind me, and it's just constant noise is kind of interesting to hear. Let's see if we can add some to our grid so we can actually walk up to it. That would be kind of nice. So the grid, for those who haven't seen it, is this terrible system I'm using right now. And what it does is, there we go. It allows me to essentially generate new nodes and string them together in a way that it tells the game how the player can walk. Not a huge fan of it, mostly because it's not only a little touchy, but also on top of the touchiness, it tends to be incredibly manual in its creation. Let's see here. There we go. We calculate the links, and you'll note that, like, okay, cool, it works out well enough. I generate some pretty cool stuff pretty quickly. It takes a little time to get strung together, but once it gets going, it's not that bad. It's just a matter of having to fight with this the entire time. This is something I really, really need a new tool for. But until I make a new tool, I'm kind of stuck with my very manual process. Oop, there we go. Okay, I'm going to take these points. We're going to shift them over a little bit. Try recalculating the lengths on all of them. So you, and you, and you, and you. Luckily, I've made this button for myself. At least that saves me some sanity, because otherwise I definitely would be losing my mind as I worked on this. Calculate more nodes, get this all hooked together correctly. And while it doesn't take long for me to generate a tiny grid, the problem is when I start getting into bigger game areas, this is going to be painful, which is why I'm avoiding it like the plague. Also, apparently when I don't hook myself up to a grid node correctly, let's see here, party, your starting grid is correct. Okay, so I can walk between these points. Also, sometimes the grid node ties don't work. And so you'll note, like in this case of, I've got the ties, but for some reason it doesn't want to do, there we go, all the links correctly. I need to find a way to do multiple links on multiple pieces, so I don't end up doing this every time I put in a new link that may or may not actually have a better tie. There we go. So now I can walk right up to this water line. Never programmed before. How long would it take to make a commercial Android game from scratch? Really depends on the game. If you're looking to make something of a complexity akin to like Temple Run, it might honestly not be that bad depending on how quickly you pick up game development. Game development is not particularly hard. It does take somebody of a somewhat technical mind, but like any language you learn, whether it's French or C++, there's some level of not just aptitude, but also a level of control that you gain when you learn the new language. And as you get better and better, you get better at generating more and more. And so something that might feel like it's a little too much to handle at first is actually pretty easy after you've gotten used to the environment for a while. I've never done web programming for the most part, so if you're looking for something I'm terrible at, that's on the long list. And it's something that I'm improving, but it's one of those things where as I learn more and more, I kind of come to understand the structures that are expected inside of web programming, and as I get better at it, I make better stuff, and I do it quicker. You know, if you were to look at my undergrad work and compare it to something like this looks pretty simple, but there's a lot of underlying structures here that worked out very well because I've been at this for a while. It takes a while to get good. I would say it takes a year or two, you know, to get to that point where you start to really get what's going on, especially if it was made easy by the fact that I went to university for it, so that year or two was heavily influenced by the fact that I had a lot of friends going through and doing the same thing. Also, I had a lot of people who were really interested in the same thing since I did a game design program. So it made it a lot easier. Like I said, it really depends on your drive and how interested you are and how much of an aptitude you have for it. Not everybody is built to be a programmer. I've seen more than a few folks who went through the game design program at UC Santa Cruz and either got to the end still unable to program, or they at least noticed in the freshman year that this was maybe not the thing for them. Which was unfortunate, because I definitely think that game programming is great and tons of fun, and a lot of people should do it, but I can also understand the difficulties sometimes with it. Like, you'll note this is incredibly basic environment design. It's because my environment design skills aren't that good, but as I get better at it, this area is going to look prettier and prettier until it looks like something that I feel like I could actually attach my name to, and maybe have people be excited to look at and say, oh man, I'd love to play that game. The easiest way to do it is literally to do it. Maybe not pick the idea that you really want to do right off the bat, but pick a simple idea, learn programming on that simple idea so you don't mind fudging it or messing it up. Start with Pong, start with Adventure, start with any game from the Atari 2600 maybe. Learn how to make that, and then once you've got that down, just go a step at a time further until you get to where you want to be. Specifically, I know I started with a game very similar to Lemmings as my intro. And then as I got better, I said, okay, cool. Now I'm going to do a platformer. Now I'm going to do other things. Green Rolls has really got it right. One of the main reasons a lot of people don't like Unity games is because a lot of them seem simple, because it is so beginner friendly, and it's so easy for a beginner to put something out that looks unprofessional or looks unpolished or unfinished. But it also is capable of making some really cool stuff. It just takes somebody with that knowledge to put good use to the engine and the systems. I also noticed I had some things sitting in SVN that were not being used. Let's just add those to the list. Just because textures are good. Especially decent textures like this. They're kind of hard to come across sometimes. Alright. Cool. So, basic river, basic land with a building. Let's try and see if this building interior works, because that's the other piece of the puzzle here that I've been trying to work on today, and making sure that may or may not actually be that great. So I'd like some confirmation. Let's just tie this one in and say that 15, okay, so copy to, oh. Cool, okay, and we're just going to do this 2 at a time. So you become -4. We're going to recalculate both of you. Oh man, I really do need a tool for this. I've been having trouble coming up with a good tool that doesn't break things. Hello, dog. Okay, so we've got the grid points mostly here. Let's find the right one. And I can't help but notice that these don't line up. So we need to shift the house more than a little bit. Not the end of the world. I just need to figure out what to do to get this lined up with the rest of the grid. Also, probably a little closer would not be a bad thing. Just gonna zoom in a little, because Unity likes to use sensitivity based on zoom level. A little closer. Grid, how do you look? That looks like that's something you could walk inside pretty easily. I'm gonna shift it a little closer just to make sure, but I think that should be all I need. little over, a little closer again. I don't want it too close though, so I got to remember that. Otherwise, when you walk up and look at the door will be right in your face, and how it goes. Hiring someone for art is good. Also, buying art that's already done is a good way to go about it. That's how you'll notice that a lot of my stuff kind of matches and fits a certain style and look, is because I've been buying art from the same person. But they're able to they're able to sell that art to many people, so it makes it a lot cheaper for people like me who are still very much going through that, for lack of better words, I guess I'll call it the hobby stage. Okay, let's take these three. I'm going to shift them up into the building. Except you missed. That's funny. This one is actually not in the building. This one is in the building. And this one is actually in the building. Interesting. Okay, so I'm actually gonna get rid of this one. Yeah, probably. I like how some of them say missing, when really it should just be the fact that, hello, grid node number 1, the one I start on. Okay, you can walk through a wall on that one, but that's not the end of the world. Why did these get all messed up? That's really weird. Okay, there's that line for that one. There we go. Let's see how this goes. So I can walk towards-ish the house. Apparently it doesn't like it the moment I start walking towards it, though. 16, what's wrong with you? You are lacking your links as well. Apparently I haven't been recalculating the links on these terribly well. That or my code has not been doing a terribly good job of ensuring that all the links that are there should be there. There. That looks good. Okay. So I can walk over, I can walk through it, because by default, doors are unlocked. So that's not too bad. And now I can walk around inside a decently sized building. It doesn't feel terribly cramped, but it also doesn't look like a large house either. So you don't expect there to be a ton of room. Drop the roof a little bit more, just because I can't help but notice that there was a little space there in which light was creeping through. There we go. That looks better. I say that, but there might be... Nope, that looks good. GameMaker is great. GameMaker is actually how I got started. I know Rex is kind of going through the list of tools that a lot of people run into when they first look into game making. And GameMaker is definitely, I'd say, one of the easiest ones for a no programming situation. You'll find yourself somewhat limited by the tools, but then they also have a GameMaker programming language, which allows you to do very basic stuff, at least at the beginning. So if you've got an idea you just want to slap down and be done with, then that is a great way to start. Once you desire more control and want your game to be a little more in depth or to have more control over subsystems, then you're going to find that you want to take that step from GameMaker, whose programming language is similar to actual programming, but it's not an actual programming language insofar as it doesn't give you access to the entire system. It's more of what we call a scripting language. And so you'll find that there's a point where you'll want to start learning a programming language, and then from there, you'll find, oh man, I love this. I have so much control, and you can do the same stuff that you see professional programmers doing. Saturn Yoshi, yes, a Unity dungeon crawler is what I am currently working on. Now, obviously, you don't see any dungeon in front of you. My starter area is a town, and I'm kind of working on getting houses and interiors to look decent. The next step is going to be, after I get my interiors looking nice, we're going to dive into actual dungeon making. So eventually I will get into underground dungeons with traps, and I've already got monsters and NPCs and other environmental effects so that we can have the dungeon feel nice and well featured. The biggest thing I'm really working on here is keeping the game within my scope. So I'm only going to have a couple areas. I'm only going to use those couple areas as in-depth as I can and really explore those, and then I'm just going to move on. So you won't find a huge game in the making here, but you'll find a decently sized one still. And I tend to know what I'm talking about. Not always, obviously, but I tend to know what I'm talking about. So if you guys have questions, I am happy to answer what I can. I do make video games for a living on top of for fun. So if you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer what I can. I'm mostly a startup junkie, so you'll find my experiences don't exactly match a lot of people's experiences insofar as I tend to work for startup companies. Startups treat you a lot better than certain larger companies do. So yeah, it's my experience is obviously not the same as a lot of other stuff. Cool. So this house is starting to look pretty neat, and we're starting to get the details to look right. In terms of starting position, how things work out. I mean, if you look at the floor looks pretty good. The edges have a little green on them, and I don't particularly care a ton at the moment. Actually kind of want some dirt underneath this. Also, let's shift the party up the 8 units, so at least the game scene can see things. It doesn't look completely terrible. Just wanted to get that out there. Yeah, startups are great. They're a little hectic, a little crazy. I know some people are not huge fans of startups because they do tend to, if you let them, they will definitely eat up more of your life than they should. At the same time, the moment you start diving into some of that stuff, you find that you learn so much in a startup that it is well worth it. Interesting. Okay, so my curiosity is kind of kicking in. Part of me wants to try messing with the environment at least enough that I feel like I've done something here that's more than just... It doesn't look that great though. I really need to figure out how to get my environmental art skills in place, because honestly, this clearly is just not... It's not showing that I'm actually good at much. Like I said, Game Maker's a great first place to start. It gets you really on your feet quickly and lets you help get going. Once you feel like you've hit the edge of Game Maker though, and it's not going to take long to do that, that's when the next step becomes pretty difficult in comparison. Okay, so I'm just going to set this back. There we go. That actually doesn't look too bad. Granted, I'm also sitting at a far out view, and my characters can't walk up to the other dirt section. So let's get a little more grid going on here. Yay, more manual process. Not what I wanted. And then at the end of this whole thing, I'll probably treat myself to a little bit of game time. I don't know if I'm probably going to stream that too, just for kicks. I'll probably kill the stream for a moment, bring it right back, switch the thing that I'm working on, and switch to some game of some kind. But let's see, 1, 2, oh. Is it attached to itself? Oh, no, 1, okay. And 16. Now comes the more hard part, figuring out which of these I need. There we go. At least I can find them fairly quickly. No, don't shift the camera. Unity, what are you doing? I'm sorry, dog. Okay, starting here. Recalculate. Game Maker limitations? The biggest limitations are really when it comes to performance things. It's difficult to control what what the various aspects of your game are doing. It's not a bad thing, but it happens to have limitations. The moment you want a certain amount of control, it's difficult to do things that are outside of Game Maker's influence. And so that's why I tend to suggest that the moment you feel like you've hit the end of what Game Maker can kind of do for you, that's when you take this next step in. For example, last I checked, Game Maker couldn't do shaders. Now, obviously, all the information I'm operating on are... oh gosh, it's been a long time since I've actually used Game Maker. I want to say it's been almost a decade now. Almost. So I haven't used Game Maker in a while, but last I remember you couldn't use shaders. It was difficult to do anything in a 3D space, or to get parallax 2D environments running. Lighting was very, very minimal. They had some lighting solutions, it really wasn't that great. So there was some stuff that they were still getting going. Obviously, things have probably changed. As Saturn Yoshi just mentioned, apparently Game Maker can do shaders now. Great. That's actually really friggin' cool. For a system like that to have shaders, I'm seriously impressed. That said, if you want streaming levels, that wasn't really possible before. If you wanted really complex AI, that was really difficult to do as well. And so there were a lot of things like this where you spent a lot of time either hacking around their system, or you just kind of got to this point where you got fed up with Game Maker, did something else in a language that gave you more control. Alright, last one. I'm just going to do all these links, and then we'll kind of see how it looks and feels and tie it all together for what we can. We've been at this for just about 2 hours. Oh, and I forgot to do some recalculated setups here. Do I really have to go through all of them again? I'd really prefer not to, but 425. I wish I could do this in mass. That's the part that gets me, is you'll note that each of these doesn't always do a decent job of modifying everyone around it. It modifies itself well enough, but it actually doesn't do a terribly great job of modifying the neighbors whose connections are changing. That looks fine. Those look fine. Cool. That actually looks like it's been hooked up. Streamed levels, so a level that is too big to fit in memory or has too many objects and you want to break it up into little pieces. So that you don't load the whole thing at once, but you load parts of the level, and then as the character walks around, you insert and remove things from the level manager so that the game actually looks like it's attempting to keep some semblance of your memory intact. Cool, so we can walk around, we can look at this this fountain a little bit. We can't really get too far, but the ground doesn't actually look all that bad. I'm actually somewhat impressed. Let's try maximizing this just for a moment, just to make sure it doesn't look bad when we're also at a good size. Oh, that's the shadows moving. I was wondering, you'll see a little bit of color movement here, and I forgot that the sun is slowly shifting across the sky. And so that's causing the shadows here to move across objects. But I forgot that that was there, so I was wondering, like, how is this doing things? Excuse me, dog. There we go. Had to grab an Almond Joy because only I and one other person in this house eats those. Undertale was made in Game Maker. That it was. I wasn't a huge fan of Undertale, but that's personal opinion, not whether the game was actually good or not. It just wasn't my style. I watched Poor Dodger do a genocide run and fight. I think the last boss, it took her upwards of, I want to say 6 hours to beat. So we can walk inside and we can see through the roof. Not great. Also, I can't help but notice that I can't walk certain places. So I can walk here, but I can't walk back. What is going on with some of these grid nodes? It's like they're... No, that one's marked as being okay. What is going wrong here? Oh, there's our problem. You and you are incorrect. I really don't look forwards to debugging that by hand, which is exactly why I don't want to mess with doing this by hand in the future. Obviously right now, I clearly don't mind doing it by hand right now. But that's because I'm trying to make a game in a certain amount of time, so. Is it? Okay. I mean, it's interesting to watch her fight that for 6 hours. I literally logged on at work, saw that she was playing, went offline, worked for a while, proceeded to drive home. When I got home, I was like, huh, I wonder what she's doing now. I wonder if she's still at it. It's the same thing as watching, like, Man vs. Game play through Wings of V. Oh my god, that poor man. The fact that he beat that game astounds me. Like, I literally watched him fight the same boss for 8 hours at some point. It drives me nuts that anyone would be able to stay on the same task for so long. gonna add the door opening and closing sound. Just shouldn't be hard, right? If I don't think I have that sound already though. That is a good thought that I just realized. Maybe I won't add it. Sound library, MP3s. Let's put headphones in so I can hear these things. Door. I don't hear a door, or I don't see a door, but okay. I was kind of hoping I had a door open or door close button. Footsteps. No, I've clearly never done an ultra marathon. My closest thing I've ever done is a 48-hour game jam, where pretty much I decided I wanted to sleep, and so I logged off for 8+ hours. Even during game jams, I like my sleep too much to do anything beyond the kind of, I don't know, 14-hour point, I think, is one of my longest. But that's really, I've been programming the whole time, so my tasks keep changing as the game I'm working on changes. I haven't really felt the need to stick around for so long. Really? I just want a door sound. Alright. Open game art. Help me out here. Sound effects. Door. Nope. Nope. Really? Decent. That almost sounds like you're slamming the door, though. Okay. Let's see what this has. It's a 7-zip file, whatever, don't care. We are going to extract these to my Scratch folder. I keep a folder called Scratch alongside the game. I don't commit anything in Scratch to the Subversion repository, which is why it sucked so much when my hard disk died. But what that does tend to mean is that black files. Interesting. Okay. So we tend to associate upwards noises with opening of doors and downwards with closing. And that's kind of why I probably shouldn't have closed that window so quickly, but that's why I liked this one, actually. Now, it's a little long, so that's the only thing that's killing me. Luckily, I know a program called Goldwave. Goldwave has been around since high school for me. And it's one of those, like WinZip, one of those things that you tend to choose if you want to pay for or not. I don't think I've ever paid for it, unfortunately. I'd love to support these guys, I just never gotten to it. Add it to the start menu. Sure, add it to the start menu. Hey, cool. So we've got the OGG file, and I kind of want to chop it up and reverse it if possible. Hematite, Scratch. Great. So we've got it in the Scratch folder. Where are you, Goldwave? This is what I use for my most basic, simple, I need modifications to an existing sound. Obviously, I wouldn't dare try and make a sound with this, but it's not too bad to... Ooh, housemate's playing Rocket League. I want to play. Oh well. Okay, that's what I want for the one sound. So we're going to take this. Oh man, he's changed icons and updated everything. This is actually kind of crazy. I haven't seen this program in years. Somewhere around here, there is a trim. And then we're going to do a save as, and we're not going to use OGG because I'm just not a huge fan of OGG, or FLAC, sorry. I don't mind switching it to OGG files, but keeping it as FLAC, not a fan. Desktop, you scratch. Oh, okay, the original was OGG. Well, closing door, I'll just call it 0. There's also a little fuzz beforehand. You'll note that this space is just kind of like a fuzz inside the sound file. I'm not a huge fan of that, so I'm actually going to go so far as to rip that out. Now it's more immediate. You open the door, there it goes. It's really long. That's the other thing. So let's trim off the excess and see what we can do to shorten this. Now, obviously, you can always cut it up, but I don't really want to cut it up. I want something more along the lines of speeding it up and then dropping the pitch to make it sound more like a door opening and closing again. So let's see here. What do we got? One of these is a time change. It's just been a while since I've seen this. Dynamics, sensor, reverse. We'll be using that later to make the door open sound. Noise reduction, silence reduction, change volume. I want a speed change. Time. There we go. Okay, so that's how it sounds normally. That sounds good. We just want to... That I liked. I like that much better. I'm gonna be rich soon. This is gonna be great. Hey, look at the guy who made stuff like, I made a game with zombies in it. Simplest Xbox Live thing ever, and yet very, very well executed. Sometimes the execution is all the difference when you make a game. All right, so we've got opening, or we've got closing, right? You close the door. Now we want, well, do we want an opening? Or do we just want to reverse this sound? You reverse it. I actually don't like the reverse. Let's just keep it like this for now. That's all I need. Just a door noise of some kind. Let's get out to our scratch folder and move that into the actual game. Here's our sounds folder. And I'll just door close. Okay. We need a new script. I need a navigation sound, I think. Create a new C# script. This is going to be our navigation sound. Blocker sound toggle, yeah. So this, like many of the sounds and other things I've been working on in terms of content, it's going to be one of those things where you hit a point in the game where you say, I want to walk somewhere, and as you walk to that point, it should then do something like play a sound. I'm going to copy an existing navigation component, although I'm not going to use one that's quite so... actually, that's not what I'm hunting for. I guess I only need one function. So I have an onAttempt navigation function. What I actually need to do is to Let's see here. I know the party has an actual navigation when they arrive, I think. I need to look at the party class real quick. On, let's see. So I have an attempted navigation, and I also have an on navigation. That's the one I want to use. So first we attach an audio clip, which is going to be the sound effect. Also, that should not be void. And then we also attach a function called onNavigation. And I think it passes information in. I don't particularly care. Well, actually, do I? I think I do. So directional and then direction. There we go. And the party passes information through to this. I could swear it did. It doesn't actually look like it does anymore. But we can always check the party. So when you arrive at a place, we can just set it off, and that's not so bad. So audio source dot play clip at point. We play the sound and we play it at the party instance. Wow, I can't type. Instance. Transform position. Done. So now, if I attach this to the right point, tick, 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 tick. I want, okay, when you walk there, we're going to attach a new script that is our navigation sound. And we have our new audio clip of a door closing. It is directional. And let's see here. Nope. Other direction. 22. Yes. So it's when you come in from the north side. So if you're facing north when you walk in, yeah. Now, obviously, there's no sound going the other way, so we can attach that one as well. That looks like it's going to be 28 or 30. Nope. 22. There we go. A navigation sound. Same door close audio clip, but you have to be facing south this time. Now, this is going to set off when we go the wrong way. You'll notice I'll walk right up outside the door, and it makes a door noise, even though I haven't walked through the door. Obviously not good. Pretty easy thing for us, though, is we can say, well, first off, we're going to grab the party instance, and we can check the direction they're facing and check whether or not they moved forwards or backwards to arrive at their destination. Alright, I think I want to do the same thing I'm doing for my standard navigation stuff. When I walk forwards, I want it to identify that you have walked forwards into that square. Yeah, that should be good. And let's just double check that all on navigation calls get this. It doesn't look like they do, but that's fine. Let's see here. Are these the only two? No, there's a lot of things that use on navigation. Okay. The other thing we could do here is fix it by passing in the direction we just came from. Hey, Thorena. and Urban Mango. Hey folks, glad you can join me. I think after I get this done, I'm going to jump in and start doing some Rocket League. Just kind of take a load off, relax for a little. But one thing at a time. Let's get this finished first. And I shouldn't be future-proofing against myself. Right? For now, I actually don't mind that I'm doing things this way. So I think I'm going to keep it as is. We are simply going to say that we have to fix all of our on navigation calls. So anything that says void on navigation requires this. Not the end of the world, but makes life a heck of a lot easier if we're using this function, because it gives us some context on which way we're moving when we trigger this. Most of these won't care, but some of them might. And that's the part I'm kind of trying to take care of here. Alright, so we've got everything else cleaned up. So the navigation sound is going to do the following. First off, if it's directional, then we probably need to check some stuff. If it's directional and if not directional, otherwise, let's see, if you're going forwards, I've done this before. I know I have party dot, is it direction facing? Yeah, it is. Okay, I've got this code somewhere else here. I'm just gonna grab this, because I know it does what I want it to do. I can remove all the extras here. That or that or that and that. That's great. And the block direction. We'll call it the sound direction. If that, not closed. Or, oh, I see why there was an open and shut there. That and that, or open, open, shut, shut. Shut. Cool. I'm going to move this to the next line just for readability's sake. And I can't help but notice that I have to copy and paste a line of code, something I absolutely hate doing. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to say play sound is equal to not directional, or if that's not true, all this. Or we're going forwards and we're facing the same direction, or we're not going forwards and the opposite direction is the same. Either way, play sound is a thing. And if we have to play the sound, we play the sound. Isn't that much simpler looking code? It's just so much cleaner and easier to use. I absolutely love doing things that way. Alright, so that should, if we've done this right, fix our problem with the actual facing and usage of that. So there's our south. And for some reason when I hit save right now, it wants to make funny noises. Okay. So there's your north-south call. You should be set to south, save, and let's see. So if I walk over to the door, I can walk past it just fine. Okay. I've got them both backwards. Of course I do. North and your north link, sorry, your south link is 27, which should be south. There we go. Let's try this again. Aha! There we go. And thus we have a house that feels like an actual house that you can actually kind of sort of walk into almost. I mean, you can actually walk into it, obviously, but it feels better when you have sound effects and things like that. Yes, I still walk straight through the door head first, but also, something you may not notice unless you are very keen of eye. The doorknob is on the right-hand side here. The doorknob is on the right-hand side out here. Something's not quite right with this door. Just saying. Alright guys, we're coming up on the 2.5 hour mark, and I think in terms of programming, this might be it for the day. For those of you who want to stick around, I'm going to make a fool of myself, probably playing some Rocket League. I'm not terribly good at it, and I don't know. We'll see. It could be hilarious. It could be really off the wall. I don't know. Thank you guys. So for those of you who joined and are curious what's going on, I'm about to sign off, unfortunately, but what I do enjoy is not only those of you who have joined or followed. Thank you for those of you who followed, because it means a lot. The support that comes from even something as simple as a follow just lets me know that you guys are interested in what I'm doing and that I'm doing something correct. So thank you guys for that. If you want to make sure that I'm, I guess, let me phrase it this way. If you want to make sure that you're not missing any of the streams, you can follow me on Twitter, or you can just hit the heart button, the follow button for the stream below, and that will give you some kind of notification whenever I go online, so you won't miss any. I try and make sure that I update Twitter, and I also try and keep my YouTube channel, which is also linked below, up to date, because more recently my archives from Twitch have gotten dropped. And so I want to make sure that you guys, if you want to see how I got to this point, how we got where we are, the Twitch channel is the easiest way to do that. So if you check out that, you can, or sorry, not Twitch, the YouTube channel is the easiest way to do that. I'm losing my mind here. I think that's all I gotta say. Thank you guys again for joining me. I'm gonna kill the stream for a couple minutes and then come back, play some Rocket League, and yeah, that'll be that. Thanks guys, and I'll see you in a little bit, or I'll see you Monday morning. I do a Monday through Friday link. My YouTube link's not working. What? Oh no, that's garbage. Let me toss my YouTube link in anyway, just to get this, just so nobody misses anything. Oh, you know what? I think I know what happened. Let's see if I can fix this. Can I fix it easily? That might do the trick. YouTube is in fact not working. Yeah. Okay. I'll have to fix that link later. Thanks guys for letting me know. I'm actually going to tack that onto my list of YouTube link is bad. Sad face. Oh, you know what I did? I think I know what's going on here. Yeah, okay, here's the best link, and for now, I'll fix that. Fix that when I can. I have literally no Twitch delay? Good. Good. Because, I should have some of the experimental stuff turned on that should drop the amount of delay going on in my stream. So yeah, I'll be right back, guys, and we'll get some Rocket League, some soccer cars going on.